Hello, all, and welcome to the Northampton Housing Partnership Monday, March 3rd, 2025 hybrid meeting. This meeting can be attended every month in person at City Hall, at the City Hall Hearing Room at 210 Main Street, second floor in Northampton, or you can attend over Zoom. The City of Northampton does not discriminate based on disability and is committed to hosting accessible meetings. To request a reasonable accommodation to attend any city meeting, please contact the ADA coordinator at adacoordinator@northamptonma.gov. And so with that, I will take a roll call. Hannah Schaefer. Attendance call.
Here.
Gordon Shaw.
Present.
Melissa Fowler.
Here.
Gwen Nabad. Here. Is there anyone that I'm missing? Ben.
Yes. Hi.
Ben
everybody. Yeah.
Ben
Hi.
Wood.
Ben
Hello,
Wood.
Ben.
Nice to see people. I'm a new member.
All right. Welcome,
I
welcome.
am here.
All right. This notice is being recorded. Do we want to do quick introductions? I'll start with you, Hannah.
Sure. I am Hannah Schaefer. Welcome, Ben. I have been a member of the Housing Partnership since, I think, May 2020. I think some folks I still haven't met in person to this day, but I am a renter in Florence.
Melissa.
There we go. Hi, I'm Melissa Fowler. I've been on the board for a couple of years now, partnership for a couple of years now. I'm also a member of the planning board. So I'm sort of the planning board liaison to this partnership. Welcome.
Thank you. Gordon.
Hi, Ben. I'm Gordon. I'm an attorney. I'm sitting now in my Springfield office. I work for Legal Aid, Community Legal Aid. Maybe you've heard of it. We have the program that provides legal assistance to low-income folks throughout Central and Western Massachusetts. But I've been on the partnership. I can't even remember how long it's been. It's been maybe 2010, maybe 2011 is when I first joined.
Been a while. All right, and I will go to you, Ben.
You hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks for the introductions. I'm Ben Wood. I'm a homeowner in Florence. I've been in Northampton for a while, since about 2002 is when we moved here and raised a family here. And really excited to be part of this conversation. I am a public health person. I was the city's health department director years ago. I work in nonprofit public health consulting now. I work from my home, which is why it's nice to get out to a meeting in person.
Right.
But really excited to dig in and support the work.
Great. Welcome. And I am Gwen Nabad, and I've been on the partnership. I think Hannah and I came in around the same time, and if she's 2020, then I really don't remember. I've been here a little while. I am a former public housing resident, and I'm now a non-public housing resident in Northampton. And I moved to Northampton in 2019, so I'm a newbie. And I think that's everyone except Keith.
Hi, everyone, and Ben, I'm the Community Development Planner at the City of Northampton, so I mostly deal with the Community Development Block Grant, which may or may not get the axe from the federal government. But I'm also the ADA coordinator, so the ADA coordinator email gets forwarded to me. And I do a lot with like bike share and parking and other project management stuff. So, but I help facilitate this meeting.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. The next moment on the agenda is for public comment. I'm not sure if there's any member of the public in the hearing room.
There is not.
Don't see anyone in the Zoom either. So with that, I will move on to approval of the minutes from February 3rd, 2025.
I'll make a motion that we approve those minutes from February 3rd, 2025.
I can second.
Thank you. And so I'll do a roll call. Hannah Schaefer,
I'll abstain because I wasn't at last month's meeting.
okay. Gordon Shaw,
I vote to approve.
okay. Melissa Fowler,
Yes.
Ben Wood,
I'll also abstain. I was not present.
and Gwen Nabad. Yes. Although if we can just discuss this for a minute, there are a couple different versions of the minutes. Or is it like 2 pages? It passes.
It's
Yeah.
probably 2 pages, yeah.
I think it's, yeah, okay. All right.
I guess I
And
should
so-
say, the version I'm looking at, Keith, I don't know, maybe there's a second one that went out. I did tell you that you marked me as absent from the last meeting, but I was present. I was late. That's maybe why you didn't.
Okay, yes, I do recall that, and I will make a correction and I'll
Yep.
annotate that in the minutes for the approval.
Yeah, so because I'm voting in favor, but it shows I wasn't there.
Okay.
Great, okay. Okay, so that makes the minutes approved from February 3rd, 2025. The most recent one are the ones that I looked at, Keith. Yeah. Okay, so I thought we could have a little discussion, or if anybody has any feedback on the fossil fuel ban ordinance, or if Keith had anything to report on that. I guess, you know, we've talked about, will it frighten developers, things like that. And, we're also not sure about federal funding and things like that. But it did pass in Northampton, as far as I know. Is that right, Keith?
Yes, that is correct.
Gwen, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'll probably ask lots of questions.
Uh-huh.
What's the role of the housing partnership in these discussions? Is it to provide recommendations back to the planning board? Is it what's the
Okay, the mission?
or what? Yeah, what's the is if I voice an opinion, I'm voicing an opinion that does what? I guess is really the question.
Okay, so in terms of this is on the agenda. The reason this particular item would be on the agenda is because we often might have concerns. The goal of the partnership is to, build more low income and affordable housing and support housing across the city. So this fossil fuel ban situation has been coming up since it kind of came in late as a topic, but we did want to talk about it and, talk about if we felt that it was going to have an impact on developers coming in and building affordable housing. What's the purpose of the discussion, or an opinion would be probably not very much of an impact at this point because it did pass in the city. But sometimes we do have topics that we talk about that are related to zoning, or sometimes there might be letters that someone might need if they need letters of support for different things. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
No, it's incredibly helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just,
And-
wasn't privy to what the council did. I'm just wondering how developers felt about this. Did they come out like, yeah, this is great, or were they like, this is going to add significant costs to development or any type of housing? I don't, maybe it's water under the bridge. We don't need to spend time doing this, but I
Right.
just,
I'm
we know that
curious.
developing housing is expensive, and adding more regulation
Yeah.
to that could be another barrier to getting more people to invest in affordable types of housing.
Yes, exactly. Do you know, Melissa, if there are any developers that have been saying anything to the Planning and Sustainability Department?
Unfortunately, I don't know. I wasn't in attendance. I don't believe it came before the planning board, but I wasn't in attendance in the meetings with city council. So I wasn't a part of any conversation about what the local developers thought.
Mhm.
I mean, I know little bits and pieces that I've heard from developers that I know, yeah, it is more expensive. It is, but is it gonna scare them away?
Mhm.
I,
And then there are also questions in terms of affordability, in terms of the cost of, just being all electric and things like that. So these are things that we just talk about and we um, mention in public meeting, acknowledge these things, how they might impact different groups of people and housing and all of that. So I think, it's not going to change. I did either attend or watch later the approval of the fossil fuel ban. And for the life of me, I don't remember any comments. I feel like it happened like a few months ago. So, does anybody else have anything to say about this? Yeah.
But I do think that the concern that I would have raised probably is probably similar to where you were going, Gwen. Maybe I think it's the downstream impacts on future renters, and the cost of electricity, as we know, is incredibly high right now, and
Mhm.
maybe going to be, going to get higher.
Right.
So I think it's that downstream consequence. I don't have a frame of reference for understanding
Right.
what the impact might be on developers, but
Uh-huh.
on homeowners and on renters.
Non-renters,
Clearly,
yeah.
electricity right now is very expensive.
It is, and Mass Save, what's happening right now in Massachusetts is a perfect example of what can the unintended consequences that the Mass Save program is great and it's wonderful and it's amazing, but the charging of these delivery fees that are so outrageous right now, they are indiscriminate. So people of very low income are being, I've had I think 3 phone calls today about people's bills, and I just keep telling them to apply for fuel assistance. Um, but so that's an example. So yeah, okay. Okay, so next on the agenda is ADUs. Do you have any updates about that, Keith or Melissa or anybody?
I don't have any updates since the last action from the planning board or city council, really.
Okay.
what was the context of us discussing ADUs? I mean, I don't think we even use that terminology anymore because we've gone and made two family by right on many of the zoning areas in the city.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're even using that terminology anymore and often.
So, so now Northampton would just call it two family by right?
Right, and that went through, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And the state has put it through completely, so I guess the only thing I have to say about that is I think it's a great thing. And I wish that the other great thing is the recent little zoning thing that the city put through when Alex Jarrett and help me here,
Marissa,
Marissa came and spoke about,
yeah.
doing carriage houses and letting that happen and, things like that. So I think that's a really awesome thing that we're doing in Northampton. So I think that's wonderful and hopefully it increases. And I think it's really great for communities, like and families and generations of families as well. I think it's a great thing. So
It's very
yes,
popular.
yes.
We see that comes before us, before it became by right. Almost every month there was somebody,
Exactly.
and it was mostly, well, it was a real mix and exactly the kind of mix you'd want to see. It was extended families, aging in place. It was, getting kids a separate place to live. It was
Yeah,
rentals. It was across the board. People are really
exactly.
enjoying it and and making good use of it.
I guess, I mean, I really love the tiny home movement and I mean, I know it has its challenges as well, but I sort of like envision like families being able to sort of be connected in this way or stay connected in this way. And so I sort of could almost envision like a little ADU neighborhood or something like that with, these are the ideas that I have, which kind of ties in with the quote unquote social housing thing, but I'm not really sure what's going on with the social housing um on the in the housing bond bill, although I am aware that Lindsay Sabadoza did support that and co-sign for it. So I'm still in the process of finding that out. And thank you for answering that question. And it definitely is really popular. So yeah.
I can just share that my family is planning on building one of these. We have a child with a significant disability, and this was the path towards independence for.
Okay. I love it. Yeah. I think that's great. Is that in the process, Ben? Are you in the process of doing that now, Ben?
Maybe last audio.
This keeps going off. Sorry. We are in the process of doing it now, and we hope to start building it.
Well,
I
the
love
mic,
microphones.
I know the microphones.
It's
This
so
just
much
it
fun.
just keeps going off. I don't know what to do about it.
Okay.
It's just your entrance exam.
Uh-huh. Right. Gordon, were you gonna say something?
No.
Okay. Any thoughts on this at all, Hannah?
No, no, just listening and staying up to date.
Okay,
I-
great.
Gwen, I actually the one question I do have on this, because from a regulatory standpoint and from a zoning standpoint, all the things have been done, right? Like there's the ability, as Melissa was describing, to do these basically by right
That's
now.
right.
Um, I don't necessarily have any reason for why I'm asking this particular question, but I guess I'd be curious to know if there's any pushback that people are hearing from the development of ADUs or smaller homes and any of the sort of NIMBY sort of stuff that can happen when denser development happens. Just be curious to know if there's any sort of more on the sort of cultural backlash that might be people are hearing about or not.
Okay, so in my goings around, I have run into, and I have heard meetings where I have heard the public speaking and complaining more about infill and concern over water management and things like that. Some feedback that we did get on the ADUs and also like the carriage house idea, the, conversions, is that there's not the same restriction on the length of the living quarters from the property line. Some people talked a little bit about privacy. Uh, I mean, that was really the most of what I heard, and I don't know if anyone else heard anything else.
What we've heard, and it's been very little, very little. We've seen a bunch of these before they went by right before us, and very, very seldom is there anybody in opposition of it. And if they are, it's just they don't want, it's just a privacy issue. Like you said, if they know that the new structure is going to have a direct line of sight into their bedroom or something, they question
Mhm.
it. Or, we require shielding from headlights if there's going to be additional parking that's now going to be pointed into the neighbor's yard. So it's been pretty minor and stuff that we just try to or at least we did before when they used to come before us, try to just protect privacy and screening as best we can.
Yes, thank you, Melissa. And that also reminds me, a couple of things came up in terms of tree removals, and one thing that I did mention was like the idea of like septic or anything like that. How would that be handled? And it's already tied in probably or something like that. But those are just thoughts that people may have had. But yeah, okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Okay, bond bills, social housing. I guess I kind of combined that a little bit. I wish I could have done a little more on this. And I intend to maybe reach out to Lindsay too, to see what's going on with this or what she knows or, any details. Does anybody know anything about the social housing in the bond bill?
Not the social housing piece, but maybe you could start by just explaining what is social housing and where does it fit within the bond bill? Is it just being funding to develop that kind of housing?
Funding to develop that kind of housing. And I don't know how the formula works out. I did recently read, I think it was in Washington, maybe Seattle or something like that. Uh, I could be way off. I'm not going to mention what state this was in because I'm really not sure. But the gist of it is that somebody comes in and develops this social housing. And then there are some families who are, wealthier and will have fancier units. It's pretty much like a mixed income housing type of thing. And then there's like an additional little fee where those who make over $1 million a year pay into a pool, and that helps to support the lower income housing. And I think also it's also the balance of power in these arrangements. So rather than somewhat of a top-down type approach, it would be maybe there are some social mores in the social housing that and also like just better power balance for residents and tenants. I'm not really sure. But that would be that's what I was reading about was how the sort of the mathematical formula would work. And it passed on a very local ballot is what happened. And I wish I could remember the city, but I don't. And, I think for social housing, you need land. So that's a thing. Um, So those are my thoughts, or I don't know if anyone else has any more. I'm gonna learn more about it and I'll keep you guys posted on what I learn. Okay. So I think the next one could be for Keith because the next topic is upcoming housing choice grant.
Yeah, so we are a designated as a housing choice community, and so that is a requirement before you apply for the housing choice grant. Housing choice grant, you can do one of two things. You get money for a lower amount of money to help create zoning or ordinances and things like that to better implement some of these housing choice best practices. There's a big list of them. Um, a lot of things that we've already done.
We lost you, Keith.
So I don't think we've used the planning grant, but we have used the project grant. So we've used the grant several times now. One is in process right now that I am working on, which includes the Cook Avenue house that will be 4 to 6 units for Habitat Humanity.
Uh-huh.
Evergreen Road, and then we did look at Oak Street. If that goes through, that could be like 6 to 8 units. But there's some, kind of helped us kind of take some of these parcels that are a little harder. Maybe a developer, affordable housing developer didn't want to touch it because it had a lot of different things, but we can kind of take it, do some due diligence, do some surveying work, infrastructure, things like that to get it ready for them. So the next step is really to maintain our housing choice. And this is all, it's basically administrative, kind of make sure we, for this next cycle. And so we are in the process of doing that. And then from that, we'll, look at the grant and see what we can do. So priority is getting the application in for our designation. And then, by the end of the summer, I believe, hopefully well, I mean, it'll be due by the end of the summer, but before then, we'll obviously have to find a project, one that fits the program requirements, and kind of one, that are the city's goals, I guess.
Great.
Is
Okay.
this state money? I mean, it's a grant, right? Is that who's funding this?
Right, yeah, so it's Executive Office of Housing and Livable
Okay.
Communities,
Yeah.
now known as HLC instead of DHCD, so
Yeah.
it's just easier to say HLC.
Yes.
HLC.
Yeah. And it's mostly to support planning and not, it's not direct money to help a developer.
It's not, I mean, I think a developer may be an eligible applicant, but as the city, we're the ones going to be applying,
Mhm.
and we've used it all for affordable housing. I'm pretty sure that's the requirement is for affordable housing. I don't know if it can be used for market rate, but at least the last 2 iterations of it, I believe it's all been for affordable housing. But yeah. I don't think the city council would, if we're doing something, they would, I don't know how, supportive they would be of doing things that were, for market rate housing. So, but our focus has been affordable housing.
Keith, for the application itself, do you have to know the projects that you're going to be working on, or is it more of a generic, this is what we would use the money for, and then you go out and identify the specific projects?
For the designation, we don't have to know the project. The designation, we have to approve that we've done a certain amount of housing production over the last 5 years. which we have to document through permits and things like that. But the actual project, yes, they're gonna want to know what we're doing, very detailed parcels and that kind of good stuff, and an expectation of certain amount of units. Obviously, things change, and in the end, some of the sites are uglier than when you start digging and find, things. So can't always get what you want, I guess.
I have a question.
Please.
You said there's two separate pools of funding, and one is for planning and the other is for developing?
Correct. So if, say, we were a smaller town, or, we need some more expert opinions on developing a plan, like if we were using, if we want to go like form-based code or something, like, that's because we don't have experience in this thing, I believe we used an outside developer consultant to help us develop our kind of form-based code. And so, that takes a lot of graphics, a lot of taking dimensions and translating them into graphics, things like that. So something like that where, there's not staff capacity, whether it's just because it's a small town or something like that. But I don't believe I can't say for certain if we've never used it for planning. But the last two projects that I've been involved with for Housing Choice have been project grants, which are a bigger pool of money, and are specifically for getting sites kind of shovel ready.
Okay. Any questions?
But I think, when we start looking at the sites, like I said, the designation is very administrative focused. But when we start looking at sites, we definitely want to, have your input and support, if it's something we're going to go forward with.
Okay. Okay, and then I have a question also about, I guess there's like 42 or 43 acres of land that is for sale in Northampton right now. I spoke with Megan McDonough of, I think, for Habitat. And she said they had looked at this land and it originally was a quarry of some sort or something. Do you know about this land, Keith or Melissa?
This is the land on Burt's Pit Road, probably, right?
Um, shoot, I'd have to look it up. Let me see.
Yeah, I can't speak to, I don't know enough to make an intelligent comment about that.
Okay. I wonder if it's like on a lower end of Burt's Pit Road or something. It's right. Okay.
When I
It's
think I know what you're
something
talking about. It's up by Sylvester Road, right? Near,
right. It's 1010 Ryan Road, Florence.
Yep, that's out that way.
Okay.
The end of Ryan Road, which is Sylvester Road.
So I just wanted to put it out there that there is this land for sale. And so that's it. It's probably something that everybody already knows about.
City land?
I don't know who the owner of the land is. I'm not really sure who owns the land.
it was definitely an old quarry area.
I think it's the Willards gravel pit, the old Willards gravel pit, I think.
Okay, yeah. So, I guess there would be maybe some difficulty or something with building there, or what?
Um, I'm just gonna shoot from the hip here. That's where my son used to go fishing all the time.
Oh.
And it was just a gravel pit, so it wasn't like it was any manufacturing or anything going on there. It's pretty, there's ponds in there. So I don't know how much of it's
Wetlands.
buildable. And
Okay.
it was gonna be a marijuana facility, a grow facility. That's who
Oh,
and they closed it all off, they gated it all off, and I know this
right.
is prime fishing time for my son.
Okay, I
So
remember
I
this
don't,
property.
yeah, I think this might be the same land you're talking
Mm,
about.
This is in Marion Labarge's area or her Ward 6, maybe? I think I knew. I think I remember something about this. Um, okay, so thanks. Thank you for that.
That's what I think it is. Yeah, it's 1010 Ryan Road. It
Yeah.
is, it's the old gravel pits. And it looks like it's listed for 450, if this is accurate here. $450,000, and it's 40 acres.
Uh,
So,
hmm. That's not the one that I don't
no,
know. Maybe I looked at something different. But maybe I just don't remember it correctly. I thought it was like much less expensive than that, the land itself. But
Hmm.
okay. Um, all right. So, our next agenda item is updates on previous items, such as brokers' fees. Any word, Hannah?
Yeah, so I don't know if people saw that the broker fee ban has been added as, I guess, a potential budget line in Maura Healy's 2026 budget, which is great. I'm not sure exactly what comes next for that. I don't know if it's just a matter of following along. I'm not actually sure, like, with it being a budget possibility, if that's something where there are going to be hearings. So I don't know if that's something that others could speak to. I will ask that first before I get to my second point.
Haven't
I
heard
don't know.
updates on that.
Okay. So that's something where I could reach out again to Representative Sabadosa and ask if if there's any action that we can take on that front. I did
Great.
want to, yeah. So that's great. I was really
Yeah,
excited to see that.
cool.
I think it's
Yeah,
great news. I did just see right before the meeting started, and I shared it in the chat that there was a piece that went up on masslandlords.net that I think probably deserves a response in some capacity from us, either in the form of an op ed. I think that, I mean, I think it's not a bad sign that they're writing something in kind of an official capacity, but they are saying that it is already illegal for landlords to force tenants to pay brokers fees, which I think is like an intentional obfuscation of,
Yes.
yeah. So
absolutely.
yeah, so that's frustrating. And I do think that it might be something that's worth a response, especially because something like this, I only found it because it's recent. So it makes it to the top of the Google results when you search for broker
Great.
fees.
Good find.
So I don't know if I feel equipped to write the response that it deserves. I mean, they're really getting into like going back into legal cases to show that there's, no precedent for this and that it's a waste of resources. So I would love to write a response. I feel like I'm going to need help on that front. So I don't know if anybody can provide advice or guidance for, how I would then go about approaching this.
I probably can't comment because
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Go ahead.
well, I mean, I have knowledge of it, but part of it is that you probably don't know this, but working for legal aid, I get federal funding, and there are restrictions on us speaking out about any pending legislation. So when I do this, I have to do
Okay.
it with my non-legal services app, but sometimes it's easier to just not publicly comment. So it's a restriction on our funding from the federal government. They don't want us to basically organize campaigns to change the laws. That's what it's at the heart of it. It goes back to the 90s. But the state of the law is that, yes, it is true. There is a statute that actually says what a landlord can charge a prospective tenant up front. And it's very clear that the only things you can charge are first, loss and security. That's it. Anything beyond that, like finder's fees, deposits, rental application fees, fees for any other things are illegal by the landlord. But there's a big loophole, which this legislation was meant to address, which is that a licensed rental agent or a licensed real estate broker is allowed to charge a finder's fee or an application fee or the service fee to their client. And they're calling their tenant their client, which is really not what's going on. They're basically they're getting a monopoly on the listings that the landlords, who aren't being charged anything, in doing all of their screening for the landlord in order to get access. So that's the problem. And Ben, this is an issue that we've been working on for a few years now. We even helped sponsor a public forum on this issue. We actually, before it became a state issue, our city council actually did write its own ordinance that's ready to go if we ever get the home rule adopted in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
you know, oh, sorry, Gwen.
oh, I just wanted to respond to you, Hannah, before I forget. That if we want to do a little subcommittee or something and work on this, I would be willing to work on it together. I don't know how qualified I am, and I haven't read it yet, but I'll look into it. And
That's great. I appreciate that, and yeah, Gordon, that's helpful. I mean, that makes me feel
that
like
is helpful,
I might be better equipped to write a response, because
right?
I don't need to get into the brass tacks. I can just say, like, basically go back to the main reasons of why we've been doing this in the first place. So,
and that the law they're citing doesn't address the harm that we're trying to curb. It's really what it comes down to.
great.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess I would have to like workshop something like this. Like if I wrote a draft, we have to do a subcommittee, right? Because otherwise I can't share.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, Gwen, that would be great, even if it's just a subcommittee of 2. I mean, anybody else is welcome.
Sure.
I'd be happy to review. I just can't have my fingerprints on it visible.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Gordon.
Okay.
I can make sure you're not saying anything inaccurate.
That's good. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, so I'll try to draft something then in the next few weeks, and then maybe could I send it to you, Gwen, and Gordon?
Is anybody interested in serving on the
Unless
subcommittee?
anybody else is interested, yeah.
I'm willing. So
I'm happy to review something. I don't have any expertise in the topic, though.
Whatever we draft would all still need to be approved by. Well, I don't know. I mean, if you could write it, Hannah, as your individual self, it doesn't have to be a housing partnership thing. But if we wanted to come with your byline housing partnership, then we would need it to go through the whole committee.
Yeah, I think at this point there's no rush. I mean, so maybe if we can get together as a subcommittee and folks can give me some feedback this month, and then we can review it. I can send it out to the wider partnership and maybe review and comment at next month's meeting.
Great. And I believe subcommittees are subject to open meeting law, Keith?
That is correct.
So Hannah and I would coordinate, and Gordon possibly with you on dates.
Yes, please.
Okay. I mean, it could just end up being a Google Doc, but I think it would still be good to have conversation and meetings.
Maybe I'll send out an email and propose a few dates in the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Does anybody feel that we need to vote on this decision? Is this a votable decision to form this subcommittee?
I think we can delay a vote until we have a product that we're actually endorsing.
Okay,
This is just
great.
work that the committee, some members of the committee are going to engage in between meetings.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna get that done. Um, is there anything, this is for new business now, is there any business not that we couldn't have anticipated? Um, anything
I
that
have
anyone
something
else?
I can mention. I just want to put on this committee's radar. I mean, I don't need to tell you what's going on in Washington these days with cuts everywhere. But the impact on housing is we're going to be feeling that probably sooner rather than later. In fact, even much sooner. Um, so just for example, I think the area that's most at risk in terms of the change in attitude towards supporting housing is the area of fair housing. So,
Yes,
for example, just the most shocking thing happened last week. You guys are familiar with the Massachusetts Fair Housing Center, which is based
yes,
out of Holyoke, but they are our regional fair housing enforcement agency. And I think, I don't know, Keith, that they still actually have a formal relationship with us to do that kind of work for the city. I know they've done assessments in the past, but on Thursday night, around midnight, the director received an email from HUD telling them their contract was terminated. They get most of their funding from HUD. That's what HUD provides, a lot of the fair housing enforcement money that exists throughout the state, throughout the country. So they're in crisis mode, trying to figure out how they're going to be able to survive without the lion's share of them. And they have other monies as well. So that's just one shocking thing that happened. And through the pipeline, we're hearing that the plan is to cut HUD staff by 50% over the next few months. And they're going to start with regional offices. So that means like local offices here in Boston, and in Springfield will be decimated. And the last thing that we heard is that while there are fair housing statutes that protect people, and this is one that we in this committee have, they're no longer going to enforce the obligation for impediments to fair housing. There's an obligation that certain cities need to take affirmative action. That's why we did that study a few years ago.
right,
There's a rule that communities like Northampton and others have to show affirmative action that they're taking to address issues of access to fair housing issues, and fair housing is just code for discrimination. That they're no longer going to enforce that rule. They're not interested in making sure cities are doing what they need to do to ensure this housing is accessible to all.
so
So
that
those are things
means,
that we should, I don't know, I don't know if there's a role yet for us to do it, but it is something that the city probably, at some
right,
point, it'll impact us here. There's definitely not going to be
absolutely,
much support for increased funding for things that like Section 8 and public housing and things like that. I'm sure it's probably going to be pretty static for the next few.
right,
Hey, Gordon, not to make the problem any worse, but I heard from
can't hear you, Keith.
a source that HUD's funding last time 84%, not 50%.
84 staffing reduction, right? Yeah.
I am really hoping that I did write a letter to Joe Comfort today about my concern about this. I did not know that our fair housing had been contacted and the contract had been stopped, but I know that Senator Warren did make a public response to this. I just got an email from NIHLC, I think it is. Um, it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. And I'm wondering if the city of Northampton, you know, we should talk more about this within the city of Northampton and just just reaffirm, at least within the city of Northampton, that we support fair housing.
Yeah. That may be
Um,
something we can do in a positive vein, because that doesn't mean we can't choose to do things, but then again, if we, the purse strings often can, cutting off monies is so hard for states and municipalities to deal with when they're saying you can't do that and we'll take your money away.
and already the fair housing organization here in Western Mass is they were already understaffed. They were
Yes.
always overwhelmed. I don't remember the guy's name, but I remember when he was just newly hired and he was like, I don't know. He's like, I'm the only attorney here right now. He's like, they're starting to hire more people. It's been really like it's difficult, very difficult. And it's a difficult time in our country right now. And I guess we just have to, I wrote a letter to Joe and just keep the conversation moving about this and how these things are happening and
Yeah.
get out there and with signs for our most vulnerable people
Yeah.
um, in society.
So something to watch. I mean, we can see how it trickles down and impacts our city, but it's going to come sooner or later. We're going to feel it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Thank you for bringing that to the fore, Gordon. Is there anything else anybody has to mention? And if not, that leaves a final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Do we need to vote on that?
We do have to do a roll call, don't we, Keith?
You do not have to do a roll call for ending the meeting.
Okay, all right, great. All right, well, thanks, everybody.
Everybody round.
Okay, see you in a month.
Thank you,
And
Ben.
Hannah,
Welcome.
I'll connect you with you
Oh,
and
yeah,
welcome
yeah.
Ben. Welcome,
Great.
Ben. Yeah.
Thank you